Hey guys, DT Rockstar 1 here. Today we are talking about the Vector W8 Twin Turbo. This is a car that I was a huge fan of ever since I was a kid. My cousin had a poster on his wall, and I said to him, "What kind of car is that?" And he said, "A Vector." And ever since then, I've just been a huge fan of that car. Now, the Vector got made fun of a lot because it didn't have the success that they had hoped it had. And a lot of people assume that just because it wasn't successful, that it wasn't any good. And I have to challenge that. Let me give you a couple of analogies here, okay? Thomas F. Wilson. He's the actor who played all of the Biff characters in the Back to the Future movies, okay? I haven't seen him in any other movies since. But you know what? I thought he was fantastic. Every age of the Biff character that he played, I thought he nailed it. On the other hand, we have Nicolas Cage, who is an A-list actor. I don't know about you, but I don't think he's one of the greatest actors I've ever seen. Another analogy. We have bands that are one-hit wonders. You know, people make fun of one-hit wonders because, well, if that's their only hit, then they must not be any good. I'm a professional musician, and I've explored the music of a lot of one-hit wonders. And I can tell you I have found a lot of gems out there. Some of them were not so good, some of them were a one-hit wonder for a reason, but some of them should have been huge. I've found some full albums that were just phenomenal. So don't ever use popularity or sales figures as a gauge for how good something is. If you think the best music is only the stuff that sells well, I can only come to the conclusion that you're a huge Justin Bieber fan, because everybody's heard of him. It was more wild than just about anything that was out there at the time, and even today. If the Lamborghini Countach was an F-16 Fighting Falcon, the Vector was an F-117A Nighthawk. It out-Countached the Countach in terms of style and interior and just in stealthiness, and just everything about it was insane. It used actual aircraft parts. The screen that you see is straight out of a fighter jet. It used aircraft switches and aircraft rivets. Jerry Weigert, who was or is the designer of the car, he wanted to be a fighter pilot, but his vision wasn't good enough. You had to have a really good vision to be a pilot. So since his vision wasn't good enough, this is what he did instead, was he basically created his own jet fighter on wheels. Okay. Now, did the Vector have problems? Of course it did. Every car has problems in the beginning phase. And you have to remember that they only made, I think it was 17 production examples, as well as a few pre-production examples. So it's pretty hard to iron out all the bugs in just a handful of cars. Think about this. Ferrari, by the time they came out with the F40, they had already been making cars for over 40 years. They made very temperamental cars. So, yeah, they had already been making cars for 40 years. What was their excuse for making cars that had poor build quality, that would have oil leaking issues, and were just totally temperamental cars? What was Ferrari's excuse for that? I've always wondered that. Why do the Italian cars always get away with that? For some reason, when a car like the Vector has a problem, it gets splashed all over the publications. But when it happens to an Italian car, they always get away with it. They always say that it's, oh, that's Italian charm. I don't understand that. I'm a huge fan of the F40, but have you ever seen the panel gaps on that car? It's terrible.
From the craziest styling details, kind of across a lot of different manufacturers. So it was a really interesting way to kind of pick a point in time and see cars come through. So this is all 1950.
So sure, the Vector did have some problems, but I think the failure had more to do with poor business management and the hostile takeover. I think that was what led to its demise more than any of its, mechanical problems. So to me, the Vector was like the Thomas F. Wilson of cars, or it's like the band that everybody makes fun of because they're a one-hit wonder. But then once you give the band a chance and listen to their other music, we think, wow, this is actually really good. That to me is what the Vector was. At the end of the day, if you don't like the Vector, if you don't like the way it looks, fine. That's your opinion, and I can respect that. The only point that I'm trying to make is, don't say that something is no good just because it wasn't successful. So you can either be an individual and make your own choices and form your own opinions, or you can just basically be society's bitch. You can let society tell you what your beliefs are. So this is DT Rockstar 1. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.